I want you to close your eyes for a second, or, well, at least just picture this vivid scene in your mind's eye. You are stepping into the legendary Copa Room at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And the year is 1964.
Right. So it is the absolute peak of a very specific, highly romanticized era of American culture. The post-war boom is just in full swing.
Exactly.
And a certain kind of, untouchable, cool rules the entertainment world.
I mean, you walk through those heavy double doors, and the atmosphere just hits you instantly. You can almost smell the cigarette smoke curling up through these warm amber spotlights cutting through the dark.
It's such a specific vibe.
It really is. You hear the crisp rhythmic sound of polished leather shoes gliding across a wooden stage, and everywhere you look, heavy crystal glasses are catching the glow from these massive glittering chandeliers above all the tables.
And the soundtrack to all of this is a swinging 14-piece orchestra. And they're playing so effortlessly and with such, perfect pocket that it makes life itself seem lighter than air.
Yeah, the joint is packed to the walls, the drinks are flowing generously, the jokes coming from the stage are razor sharp.
So sharp.
The timing is impeccable, and the band is just impossibly good. You are sitting right there in the middle of it all, just soaking in the ultimate, definitive 1960s Las Vegas experience.
Right.
But here is the twist. And here is the thing that absolutely blew my mind when I started digging into the background of this performance.
It really is the ultimate rug pull for the audience.
None of this ever happened. Not a single second of this concert took place in 1964 or any other year, honestly.
Right.
You are listening to an illusion.
It's wild.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today's deep dive is centered around a truly fascinating document and a stunning piece of audio engineering. We are exploring the liner notes, the lyrics, and the entire conceptual framework for a completely fictitious live album.
Called Rat Pack Redux, Live at the Sands, 1964. Right.
Exactly. And it was created by an artist known simply as JJ. And our mission today is to figure out how this imagined 45-minute live set uses the magnetic power of nostalgia paired with completely original music to deliver a sharp, profound commentary on modern isolation.
It is a brilliant, almost subversive setup. Because the creator has essentially built an auditory time machine, and they've done it with such painstaking, obsessive detail.
Oh, absolutely.
When you look at the notes for this album, you quickly realize it's not just a couple of catchy songs thrown together. It is a full, continuous 45-minute and 52-second live set.
Every second accounted for.
Exactly. The pacing of the banter, the crowd reactions, the way the brass section breathes, it all feels incredibly authentic.
And the way they built that illusion is remarkably modern, which feels like the ultimate irony here. To create this bustling, crowded 1964 Copa Room, JJ didn't hire a bunch of extras in a retro studio.
Right. That would be the traditional way.
Yeah, but instead they used sound effects sourced directly from the modern internet. That rapturous standing room only applause. That is actually credited to a user named Dario Crobath on Pixabay.
No way.
Yeah. And the clinking crystal glasses and the low murmuring audience room tone that gives the recording its life, that comes from the Freesound _ community, also on Pixabay.
Which presents this fascinating contrast right out of the gate. You have these digital, crowdsourced, open-source audio files from the 21st century being meticulously stitched together.
Right.
Just to forge a flawless mid-20th century analog experience.
Yeah.
But JJ is very clear in the liner notes. And this is crucial to understanding the project. This is not a parody.
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah, this isn't a joke, a satire, or some cheap imitation meant to mock the era.
Right. The original songs are actually described in the text as a conversation across time. JJ wrote these tracks with a deep, genuine admiration for an era that was defined by supreme confidence, undeniable charisma, and impeccable musicianship.
You can really hear the respect for the craft.
You definitely can. Listening to it, the whole thing feels like a beautifully constructed movie set. You walk onto the studio lot, and the mid-century storefronts look perfect. The cars are vintage. The lighting is flawless. But if you walk up and push on the brick wall, you realize it's just painted wood. It is a masterful illusion of an America that perhaps only ever existed in our collective imagination.
It's a mirage.
It is entirely a mirage. So I have to ask, why go through the immense, painstaking effort to build this elaborate, nostalgic time machine just to talk about today?
Well, what's fascinating here is what JJ says lies beneath the tuxedos, the martinis, and the swinging brass.
Yeah.
We have to look at the cultural context of 1964.
Okay, set the scene for us.
We are talking about the height of Cold War stoicism and post-war American supremacy. This era and this specific Rat Pack aesthetic is inextricably linked to the mythology of the 20th century strongman.
Right.
This was the ultimate blueprint for mid-century American masculinity. And this mythology undeniably produced some unforgettable entertainers, remarkable cultural achievements, and a very appealing veneer of unflappable cool.
It created the absolute titans of industry and entertainment. These are archetypes we still reference and honestly try to emulate today whenever someone puts on a tailored suit and pours a stiff drink.
Yeah, exactly. But, as the liner notes argue so effectively, that same mythology also helped normalize a very quiet, insidious tragedy.
How so?
It sold us the belief that true strength requires emotional isolation. It taught an entire generation that vulnerability is a fatal weakness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that needing other people, relying on a community, or admitting you can't carry the weight of the world alone is fundamentally a failure.
That showroom mentality didn't just stay in Las Vegas then. It leaked outward.
The source material tracks exactly how that happened. This idea of the isolated, untouchable strongman echoed outward from the entertainment world and shaped boardrooms, influenced governments, structured families, dictated religious hierarchies, and, frankly, it built a huge portion of the modern world.
So it's systemic.
Very much so. So the creator built this album to invite you in through the front door of that mythology. You laugh at the charming stage banter, you tap your foot to the walking bass line, you raise a glass to the nostalgia.
You are completely charmed by the illusion of control.
Right. But the entire evening is quietly, methodically building toward one final devastating confession.
The moment the painted wood falls over and the illusion drops, and that happens on the very last track of the album, a song called I'm the Man.
Yeah, that track is heavy.
When I first read the lyrics to the song, on its surface, it reads like a massive, triumphant anthem. It sounds like the ultimate victory lap of absolute self-reliance.
The narrator is entirely unapologetic about how he has lived his life. He declares, with full chest and brass backing, that he has done exactly what he set out to do.
The imagery he uses to describe himself is so grandiose. He calls himself a pillar of the town and a mountain in a vest. I mean, what a brilliant lyric. A mountain in a vest.
It really paints a picture.
It does. He boasts about never letting his guard down, never putting his pride to rest. He boldly claims he is the master of my island and the captain of my fate.
He even embraces the harshness of the reality he's built. He sings, if the air is getting colder, well, I like the winter chill.
Oh, wow.
He proudly, almost defiantly, admits to having chips on his shoulder and a heart that is standing perfectly still.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting because I have to push back here. I really want to challenge this framing for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
When you hear those lyrics, even out of context, isn't being the master of your island essentially the bedrock of Western success?
That's a fair point.
Right. We teach our kids to be fiercely independent so they aren't a burden on society. We celebrate the self-made entrepreneur, the solitary genius, the guy who pulls himself up by his own bootstraps. Being the captain of your fate sounds like a guy who has figured out how to win at life.
Yeah, I hear you.
Why is the creator framing this fierce independence as a tragedy? Is he actually just trapped in a prison with elegant furniture?
That is exactly the tension the song relies on, and it's a very intentional trap. The narrator, much like the culture he represents, fundamentally mistakes isolation for independence. He mistakes stubbornness for courage, and he confuses emotional distance with maturity. You see the cracks start to form in the bridge of the song.
What does he say?
He sings, I am the hero of a story that nobody's going to read. He claims he wants it no other way, wrapping himself in, quote, solitary glory with no other soul to bleed.
With no other soul to bleed. Man, that line is heavy. It acts as a pivot point for the entire album.
It really does change everything.
Once you hear that, it reframes every single verse that came before it. Every boast suddenly sounds less like a victory lap and more like a desperate defense mechanism.
Exactly.
It is like he has built a massive, impenetrable fortress to keep all his enemies out, only to realize he forgot to build any doors to let his friends in.
That's a great way to put it.
He is perfectly safe, but he is entirely quarantined. And you start to realize the applause in the room has faded out. The phone has stopped ringing. The chair across the table from him is completely empty.
He sings that he has won the war against the world by cutting every tie I've known. But the cost of that victory is devastating, and he finally admits it.
Yeah.
The lyrics state clearly, I am strong and I am steady and I'm freezing to the bone.
Freezing to the bone.
Right. He is entirely alone on a hollow, heavy throne. The outro of the song strips away all the swinging brass, all the remaining bravado, and leaves just the image of a man insisting quietly that he is the only man left standing in the rain.
It is a brilliant bait and switch. You think you're getting this swaggering Sinatra-style Vegas closer, and instead you get this profound tragedy of a broken man who has spent his entire life building an island, only to realize he's going to die on it alone.
It's incredibly bleak when you strip it down.
It really is. But JJ doesn't just leave it at the tragedy of one fictional guy in a tuxedo. The liner notes actually scale this concept up to the tragedy of modern civilization.
Yes, they do.
Now, we need to pause here and be really clear about something before we move forward. TJ starts using some pretty heavy sociological terms in this next section, specifically taking aim at the concept of patriarchy.
Right.
Just to be clear to you listening, our goal in this deep dive is absolutely not to endorse any political or social viewpoints or to take any sides. We are simply impartially reporting on the arguments the creator makes in the source material so we can understand the concept of this album.
Exactly. We're just looking at the text.
Right. So, according to the liner notes, how does JJ define the cost of this system?
Well, JJ's framing here is crucial to understanding the album's core message. The liner notes argue that this final song is not merely one man's story. It is the story of, quote, patriarchy's oldest promise and its oldest lie.
The promise being that if you conquer everything around you, if you dominate your environment, you'll be untouchable.
Right.
And the lie being that you'll actually be fulfilled when you finally get to the top of that mountain.
Precisely. The source material details the immense, cascading societal costs of this model. JJ argues that when men are taught from birth that their worth depends on dominance rather than relationship, on rigid certainty rather than curious exploration, and on conquest rather than compassion, everybody pays the price.
The notes specifically lay out this domino effect.
They do.
It starts with the individual and bleeds into the community. Men become deeply, quietly lonely. Women end up bearing disproportionate emotional and systemic burdens. Children inherit a culture of emotional silence.
It just ripples outward.
Communities fracture because everyone is trying to be an island. And on a macro level, nations begin to mistake brute power for actual wisdom.
Which leads to what might be the most striking line in the entire document. Summarizing this era of human development, JJ writes, "We build civilizations that can reach the moon, yet struggle to reach one another."
Oh, man. That perfectly captures the paradox of the 20th century. We completely mastered the mechanics of physics to put a human being in space, but we completely ignored the mechanics of human connection down here on the ground.
Right. The technological advancement totally outpaced our emotional evolution.
So this raises an important question. What does this all mean? If this hyper-individualism, this strongman model, has shaped boardrooms, governments, and religions, and is actually fracturing our communities, as JJ argues, how do we operate without it?
Right, because we can't just go back to 1964 and pretend none of this happened.
Exactly. What framework does the creator actually suggest we replace this with?
This raises an important question, and it is the exact problem the creator is trying to solve. JJ isn't saying that strength itself is bad, or that we should reject resilience entirely.
Okay, that's good to clarify.
Yeah, they're exposing the danger of mistaking power for wisdom and isolation for strength. To find the alternative framework, we have to look at the larger context of this album, which is a broader multimedia project called TATANKA.
Ah, okay. So this Vegas album isn't just a standalone art piece. It is actually a single component of this massive TATANKA vision.
Exactly. TATANKA exists to imagine a new way forward, a total paradigm shift. The vision is rooted in collaboration over domination.
I see.
It prioritizes collective wisdom over individual ego, diversity of thought over rigid uniformity, and listening over shouting.
The partnerships that TATANKA imagines for this future are fascinating, but I really want to understand how they work together. The text explicitly mentions a partnership between humanity, artificial intelligence, indigenous knowledge, and diverse cultures willing to contribute.
It's a very broad coalition.
It is a massive departure from a single guy in a spotlight demanding he needs no one.
Think about why artificial intelligence and indigenous knowledge are paired together in this framework. The strongman model relies on one centralized figure knowing all the answers and dictating them to everyone else.
Right, the captain of his fate.
But AI and indigenous knowledge operate on entirely different mechanisms. AI processes massive, diverse data sets to find intricate patterns that a single human mind could never see on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meanwhile, indigenous knowledge relies on thousands of years of decentralized, generational observation of ecosystems and human harmony.
So they both represent decentralized, generational, collective wisdom.
Exactly.
They are the exact mechanical opposite of a solo guy demanding he is the master of his island.
It is the absolute antithesis of the 1964 showroom model. TATANKA redefines what true strength actually is. According to this vision, true strength is not standing alone in the rain, taking on the world by yourself and freezing to the bone just to prove you can. Real strength is having the vulnerability and the courage to stand together beneath the same sky, admitting that we need each other to survive.
To use an analogy, it feels like upgrading from a solo acoustic act to a global symphony.
I love that comparison.
Don't get me wrong, the solo acoustic act can be incredibly impressive. It takes a ton of skill to play the melody, the bass line, and the percussion all by yourself on one guitar.
For sure.
But a solo act has a hard ceiling on what it can achieve. It is the symphony, where dozens of different instruments, different timbres, different histories, and different perspectives all work in harmony, actively listening to each other, that actually has the power to move the world forward and create something transcendent.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how the TATANKA vision completely flips that 1964 Las Vegas narrative on its head. The creator uses the beautiful, seductive aesthetic of the past to serve as a Trojan horse for a cautionary tale.
A Trojan horse, that is exactly what it is.
It lures you in with the glamour, the crystal glasses, and the myth of the strongman, only to methodically dismantle it in front of you, entirely by design. It's an intervention dressed up as a lounge act, designed to help us build a better, more connected future for all.
It demands that we look at the ending of that story. Not the glamorous beginning, but the fading applause, the empty room, the cold rain.
Exactly.
The album invites you to tap your foot to the brass, to pour yourself something nice, and to enjoy the witty banter. But it fundamentally demands that you reflect on your own life. As you listening are navigating your own week, your own career, your own relationships, where do you draw the line between healthy independence and isolating stubbornness?
It is a very fine line. And the tragedy is often, by the time you realize you've crossed it, you're already freezing to the bone, just like the narrator in the song.
So I want to leave you with a final thought today, something to mull over long after this deep dive ends. We have unpacked how this fictitious 1964 concert warns us about mistaking isolation for strength. But I want you to consider the soundtrack of your own daily life right now.
Oh, that's a good question.
Think about the messaging we are surrounded by today in podcasts, in business books, on social media. What modern triumphant anthems or mantras of relentless self-reliance are we quietly repeating to ourselves?
Right, because they are everywhere.
In our drive to be the captains of our own fate, to optimize our own routines and outcompete everyone around us, are we completely unaware that we might be slowly building our own elegantly furnished prisons? Just something to think about the next time you find yourself entirely alone in the spotlight, listening for the applause and the cigarette smoke and the amber lights.